Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to this special broadcast, part of the Fireside Chat series we're doing on Sansad TV with domain experts on AI in the Indian context. Well, the Government of India has launched the India AI mission with an aim to establish a robust AI ecosystem in the country through strategic programs and partnerships across the public and private sectors. Considered as a futuristic technology just a few years ago, AI has today become a pivotal force, driving innovation, enhancing efficiency, and fostering inclusivity across various sectors. One such sector actively embracing AI through various government initiatives and partnerships is the education sector in the country. So how are these collaborations promoting AI advancement in the education system? How is integrating AI in the learning process transforming the educational landscape in the country? We'll talk about all this and much more in this episode with a very special guest. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome on Sansad TV, Ms. Pragya Misra, Public Policy and Partnerships Lead, OpenAI, the company that all of you know more popularly as the developer of ChatGPT. Pragya, welcome to Sansad TV. It's a delight to have you with us on the program.
Thank you so much for having me, and I love how you teed up the conversation.
Thank you very much. So to begin with, tell us and our viewers first a bit about yourself. Yours was the inaugural hiring by OpenAI in India, and that made it extremely significant. Even today, it's extremely significant. So what is your current role and responsibilities at the company?
Yeah, look, really excited to be at OpenAI, and it's a company which is at a very pivotal moment of technology, and not just technology but humanity at large. And I think we've always seen AI being used in the backdrop of all the platforms and technologies that we've been interacting with, whether it's social media or whether it's also search. But I think just the ChatGPT moment changed the way how the average user like you and me interact with LLMs and language models, and really could see how it could unlock value for us. I mean, of course, it began with all of us writing poems and jokes, and now, of course, with ChatGPT 4, you're seeing incredible amount of impact being unlocked in all the sectors you mentioned. Healthcare, education, farming, even citizen delivery. We're doing a lot of work in that as well. So while, of course, I'm hired to do public policy and partnerships, but being the only employee on the ground, I think I see myself as an ambassador for OpenAI, and making sure that we're really building really strong relationships with developers, with the government, with the general ecosystem who are contributing significantly, to the citizen delivery work, and just collaborating more largely, right? Whether that's nonprofits, and just making sure that as we move along and expand our team on the ground, but also really take India along in our AI journey, what is it that we can really do, and where are really the sweet spots for us to collaborate on, put our big bets on, and just continue to solve India problems at scale. And I think AI is very uniquely placed to do that. I also see myself sort of a reverse advocate, because I'm an Indian first, and so often I'm really talking about the incredible value and the ingenious users that are there in India. And I think at my other roles, I have seen that often the tools are developed to serve a specific purpose, and then it suddenly comes to India, and the way we use our tools is just incredible. And so often, US tech companies or even others I have seen, I used to work for Truecaller, which is Swedish, the way we see how Indians use our tools is very unique and also teaches us a lot. And so similarly with OpenAI, as more and more execs have been coming here, including Sam Altman, who was here last year, I think every interaction we learn a lot and take that feedback into our product to see how we can really serve Indians effectively.
At the recent Global AI Summit, which was held in New Delhi, I heard the company representative from OpenAI say that there's a lot to learn from India. In that context, if you could explain to us the kind of importance that OpenAI attaches to India. It's a huge market, and the bigger bonus is that it's a market which is full of youngsters. India also has the largest youth population in the world today.
You're right. For us, we don't look at India as a market, but as a country. And I think, our mission is to bring AGI to benefit all of humanity. And with sort of close to 18% of the population of the world living in India, I think that just makes it very critical for us to make sure that we're listening and we're learning. And, also to point out to you that we're a fairly new company. It's like the ChatGPT moment really made us a product company. Before that, we were just a research lab. And so a very large part of what we're trying to do in other markets outside of the US is really interact, listen, learn, and take a lot of that feedback into our products. So, to your point, and also to what Srinivas had said, who's our VP engineering at GPI, was specifically to that end where, when early on Jason, who's our chief strategy officer, was here sometime in the beginning of the year, he interacted with a lot of developers and they said, look, working on Indic languages in OpenAI and the tokenizers that we have are extremely expensive. So when it comes to Hindi, Gujarati, Telugu and other specific largely spoken Indic languages in India, the tokenizers were really expensive. So we took that feedback and we have reduced that cost significantly just in a span of a few months. And so this is just one of the initiatives that we've taken, but also more largely, like I was saying, as we talk to developers, as we talk to users, I think what more and more feedback we're getting specifically in India is that our performance on audio should improve. And while it's fairly good even now, and in terms of evals and comparing it to other models in the market, I think we're doing a fair amount of performance. But I think we can do a lot better in accents. We can do a lot better in just speaking the language the way you and I would talk in Hindi. That's not how currently GPT-4 really performs. And so just learning on how we can do that, how can we engage with many more research institutes, how can we engage with many more organizations who are working on data, and also just engaging more largely to understand how can we do better. So the goal really is how can we build with India, for India, and really for the world, right? Because we find that very often when we are able to solve the unique problems that India has or other challenges, whether that's on personalized education or personalized health, we are trying very hard to put our tools in the hands of ASHA workers. They are really the frontline workers, and there is immense value that they can get if they have support from our models, and specifically in the areas where they provide advice, at the village level, really reducing the cost and time for somebody to go all the way back to a district hospital or to another city.
Right.
So just allowing that bridging to happen and making sure that we're empowering people with the tools just in a mobile phone and in their hands, and what more can we do there?
Catering to diverse groups at the same time being inclusive is what is also the focus of India's AI mission that was launched recently by the government of India. How is OpenAI committed to contribute?
Yeah, the India AI mission is, big congratulations to the government on that. And I think they're really moving ahead very quickly on also executing on that mission. There's a significant amount of money that's been allocated in the budget. And, while of course we can always say a lot more needs to be done, but I think it's a great step, great first step, and we often, I collaborate closely with METI on what is it that we can do and how we can engage with them. I think the two areas which we have committed to is specifically on working with the developer community and what we can do there. And then secondly, what is it that we can do on the application layer? So, there are 7 pillars of the India AI mission, and we're really trying to see how can we engage with the developer community on working with them on how is it that they can solve, of course, India-specific problems, but how can they adopt our tools more largely? So giving them a lot of technical solutioning, interacting with our engineers, our research teams as well, to really talk about not just how to use our tools, but if there's a broader research problem, how can we also bring our global perspective that might help in the specific India challenge that they are trying to tackle. And then more around the application layer, we strongly feel that with OpenAI, being a leading frontier model, I think where the real value for the Indian ecosystem really lies is building on top of our frontier models and really seeing how that can unlock value for them. And so we've seen many use cases like that in education and health. Specifically in education, I can talk about physics wala who are doing a lot around using our tools for personalized education. At a global level, we have Khan Academy who have adopted OpenAI, and it's not just to give the student the answer, but become like a buddy and nudge along with the student on what is the right step and helping them learn along the process, and also meeting you where you are in your learning curve. Because currently a lot of the education is just really at scale, right? Like it's a teacher and 50 students in a room, and you don't know who's understanding at what level, but you're just giving the same lecture consistently. And while I think it's done a decent job till now, but now that you have AI models which can help you, I think personalized learning is going to really change as AI models continue to evolve. And similarly in health, recently you would have seen that there are personalized vaccinations that are also coming in, and so we are working with large companies like Moderna, and also specifically many institutes in India, and also non-profits. I can talk about MENA Health, which is a non-profit which is working in women's sexual health, and really they're allowing for women to chat with experts on using ChatGPT to get their answers, because as sometimes in India, a woman's health or a mom's health becomes like the full family's health, right? And so everyone goes along to the gynecologist almost as if it's an outing. And so really, how can you make it very private and personalized? So we've been able to do that with our work with MENA Health, and similarly with 10-bed ICU, where there was a big challenge around the number of emergency beds that were available to people actually knowing where to go. And I'm sure you saw that in COVID, and it continues to be a growing challenge. And so they've really solved for that problem, again, using a lot of our tools. And I think just as our tools become more and more intelligent and much more multimodal, I think you will see in all of these areas, intelligence, really unlocking a lot of value on the ground and leading to benefit at scale, not just one person or thousands or lakhs, but I think millions.
ChatGPT has been a massive success, and we are seeing particularly the youngsters using it. I mean, even us, we are taking help from ChatGPT for a lot of our projects, because it opens up a whole lot of new ideas that perhaps you're not able to think of at that point in time. So while this has been a key enabler, are there also fears and apprehensions that the technology might overtake your thinking abilities? And going forward, how would you respond to those fears and apprehensions and concerns relating to those?
When I speak to my parents, they often, taunt me for my ability to calculate, right? Which is true, because when I was in senior school, I had a calculator which I could take into, my classroom, which is not something, not an environment that they grew up in. And therefore, yes, there's a certain level of dependency, but does that mean that I am completely I don't know how to think, or I don't know how to evaluate, or I don't know how to problem solve? I would like to believe I do, and I think this generation specifically it comes up with very innovative ways to solve for very unique problems that we have or unique challenges that we face. So yes, that is a possibility, but I think that all of these tools are there to help us. They are there to assist us, and I think really where we see AI moving is that if you have a PhD level assistant who can help you constantly, it's a way that you're democratizing a lot of the resources.
Absolutely.
And so therefore now I have the ability to really brainstorm with someone who has a PhD level intelligence to talk about the problems of my life, or even problems of the country, or problems of the community, or problems of the world. And I think a lot of the current generation thinks like that. I often talk to my nephew and my niece, and I think the lens they use for everything is, what is my purpose? What is my impact? Am I really doing the job that I'm doing? Is it going to create impact or not? And I think those values have shifted from just the way maybe you and I evaluated what our lives and what would success look like. And I think on that journey, for sure, I feel AI has a significant role to play. And look, personally, I meditate, and I truly believe that the role of human life is personal evolution. And I think with just the fact that AI will allow for much more productivity, I'm hoping that the 3-4 hours that get unblocked on our calendars because we're able to do our jobs much more efficiently, is we use that time to really build a relationship with ourselves, and also sort of build that begin that inner journey, which I think is critical for just us as human beings. And so I don't think that there will be a dependency to the point that we will not function, or we will or the humanness in being a human will be taken away. I think it will really add to who we are, because a lot of the stuff that we don't enjoy, like I personally don't enjoy doing admin work. I mean, nobody really enjoys doing that, right? And today if I can have an agent that can help me file my bills or book my tickets or do the stuff that I don't particularly enjoy, it frees up time for me to really think about the bigger things and the challenges of life that I might want to ruminate on. And I think that really is for me a really useful time of being a human.
And since we're talking about the fears and the apprehensions, it leads me to the other question on the safety aspect also. And prioritizing safety in AI has been a key priority of the government, of all the other stakeholders who are concerned. What steps, if I may ask you that question about OpenAI, what steps is OpenAI taking to enhance safety of the technologies that it is coming up with?
We use, or we look at safety in almost everything that we do, and it's something which is deeply embedded in all of our products. And the way we look at it is, just pre-model training and, how we really look at personal information and privacy, just the way we launch our models, and also just proactive assessment of the risks that could happen or could take place as we release our models. And so, safety is really deeply embedded in everything that we do, and it's really important to us. So as I was mentioning, in the pre-training, we take a lot of measures to make sure that personal identifiable information is stripped off. And so all the information that goes into our training is made sure that it cannot be linked back to a person. And so therefore, everything that's coming into the training models is extremely safe, is extremely private. And I think also just the security that we think about, even in the infrastructure layer, is critical, because there is a lot of training data that's available, and is accessible, obviously. And so we want to make sure that that's really secure. So that's really more on the pre-training piece. And then specifically, the way we release our models, I mean, often the conversations that happen internally are really, we tend to delay sometimes the release of our models, because we want to make sure that we've done and put in all the right safety guardrails as we release our models. And I think the interesting thing about just having a closed model that OpenAI has is that if there are any challenges once we have released the model, it's easy for us to sort of reel that back in, fix it in a post-training situation, and then of course re-release our model to make sure that it is safe, and also free of bias or free of any sort of situation that could lead to real-world harm. And so we take very, very deep, I would say, or we actually take very critical steps in making sure that whatever we put out is as safe as possible. And so therefore a lot of the time that our teams spend are really on this. And I think if you look at even elections and other sort of real world very big events, we make sure how can our teams just sit together, brainstorm on the potential risks that could take place, and what is it that we can do proactively to curb that risk. During the Indian elections, we had a whole team that was proactively monitoring what's happening on ChatGPT, and we did put a blog out on this where there was an agency, from one of the countries which we saw was using our tools to create content for social media persuasion, and we closed that very, very quickly, and we shut them down and we took them off our platform very quickly. And so that is just one way of us working proactively and moving like within hours to curtail anything that could have caused any problems. And I think here I would also like to really distinguish between the fact that ChatGPT is a foundational model and a frontier model, and the models that may be used or the deployment, the way this information travels is very different. So it's two different categories. Social media is more in the deployment and the distribution category, and us is more where the answer you get is mostly based on the questions you ask. It's not like it's feeding you anything, right? It's basically if I ask questions, it gives you a response. And so you can also report content on ChatGPT, which allows us to have a much better understanding on how our users are using it, and you can report it. We do get feedback and then take that into consideration and move along. So, I think safety is really critical.
Your answer leads me to a question on challenges. The fact that a country of 1.4 billion, so there will be opportunities, at the same time there will be challenges, and one of them is what you mentioned during the election time. How have you prepared yourself to deal with these challenges which are going to increase with more and more users, with more awareness, with more handlers of these technologies? How prepared are you to tackle those challenges, and which are of course going to be specific to India?
I think we do a lot of red teaming. So that's basically a form of, as we create a model and just pre-launch, we work with specific groups in India and around the world who are like either civil society or just really deep technology groups, which actually, use our systems, test their edges, push their boundaries as much as possible, and come back to us with feedback on what has worked, what has not worked, or are the responses, within the safety limits or not. And mostly the way we do that is, also through evaluation. So they red team it. They also then do a lot of evaluations on our models. Those evaluations are fed back to us, and we do our own evaluations as well, even before we release these models. So I think there are many layers of testing that takes place, and we make sure that we are not only just at large only releasing models that we believe are safe to use, but also, like you said, to prepare for real events, not only just testing our models, but aligning our teams internally. So we have response teams who are, like during the elections, were all hands on deck. And this year, there are close to 70 elections around the world. India obviously was one of them. And, I think our teams did a fairly decent job of coming out of that unscathed, but and also proactively worked with the Election Commission on that. And then just now the US elections around the corner. And so we're all preparing internally to make sure that we are watching what's happening, and we also collaborate with other technology companies to see what are they seeing on their platforms, and can we really collaborate, obviously making sure that all the privacy constraints are met and the privacy policies and the users, their privacy is not violated in any way, but really what can we do within that constraint to make sure that patterns can be used as cross-platform information sharing for us to make sure that we catch on what's happening on our platform much quicker. So I think these are just very interesting ways that we are making sure that we are prepared for many large events that might come around. I also feel just engaging with authorities has been a really big part of our learning. And so, talking to the Election Commission early on, and also not only being reactive, but being proactive in our engagement. And also, one of the very interesting use cases that we are working with them on is, as I was talking about the ASHA workers, similarly here, the Election Commission every year recruits lakhs of election officers on the ground. And they have a manual which really helps them, enforce any violation that might take place on the ground. And often these are really, really thick books, and it's very difficult to go through each of them.
Absolutely.
And so we are working with them on, is there a possibility of having ChatGPT train on those manuals, and then so therefore the frontline election officer can just ask a question around, what is the penalty, or what is the action that they can take if there's a violation on the ground like that. And so just really helping people on the ground also, and supporting them in the election process so that it continues to be a fair, transparent process.
So you've spoken about the opportunities that India provides. At the same time, there are going to be challenges with more and more people using this technology. And you explained to us beautifully how you tackle these challenges with some proactive engagement that you just highlighted. In that context, let me ask you a personal question about your past experience. How does that help you in carrying out these meaningful collaborations, at the same time navigating through the dynamic challenges that a country as diverse and as heterogeneous as India poses?
Yeah, I think, look, that's a strength, right? And often in my previous roles as well, the approach that I have taken is just collaboratively tackling an issue. I don't think any one company or any one person ever has a silver bullet to solve any challenge. And if I talk about my time at WhatsApp, where the misinformation was a big challenge at that point, again, there was a very collaborative effort on what can we do around digital literacy, really going out in the world and making sure that there is a lot more awareness on what is misinformation, what is it that you can do, what are the steps that people can take in order to really vaccinate themselves against this misinformation, which was a menace at that point and continues to be in many ways. But I think we are far more educated and aware now as users of technology. And I think just even at WhatsApp, I think the positive use case was during COVID, we worked with MyGov, deeply to come out with the MyGov WhatsApp chatbot, and just providing, authentic, legitimate information on COVID. Using that was extremely powerful for the government, for WhatsApp as a company. And then, similar learnings I have obviously brought to OpenAI, where today the challenges that we had around elections, we again tackled that collaboratively. Went out and met the authorities, understood from them what are the patterns that they are seeing, what are their concerns, how can we really address those concerns, creating a direct channel of communication with them, because often, during elections when there are challenges, that's not the time that you build relationships. You think about this early on so that they know how to find you as a company, and then we can collaborate and make sure that we can tackle the issue together. So I think all of us play our very important critical role and bringing perspectives to the challenges that we are facing, because technology needs to integrate with society. It needs to work and should support humans and support the work that we do, and not be at loggerheads at each other. And I think just that learning of putting people in the center of everything that I do, whether that's working in technology companies or just personally, I feel has really served me well in moving along. Of course, a long way to go and much to learn, but I feel these are some of the things that has really helped, even I think what is more to come even at OpenAI. And I think generally how AI is going to pose many challenges, along with incredible amount of opportunities that we will all get. But I think that's been my learning, where how do you really bring all the important minds to solve a problem and do it together.
And certainly, especially when we are in this interesting phase of transformation, technology has played a transformative role through DPI in India. We've seen how it has enabled and empowered people in more ways than one. So, to understand from you about how OpenAI can add value and maximize the speed of this transformation, because India wants to achieve that goal. India wants to be Viksit Bharat by 2047.
We have such smart people, so I think we can certainly get there. And we also have a government that is very innovative and pushing and creating a very enabling environment on how is it that the ecosystem can move along. And so I think it really lends an opportunity for private sector and companies like ourselves to contribute in the India AI mission and work with the government, because they have a lot of scale and we have the tools. So how can we really collaborate and make sure that we are creating impact? Some examples I would say where we've seen a very significant amount of solution working with the government has been like in judicial services. There's a tool called Adalat.ai, and it's a non-profit, and they have used ChatGPT for transcription. So today you have using it in a court. Often there's somebody typing, and then it takes a long time for that to go into an order. But today, they've created a tool where just as the ordering is being passed, the AI model Adalat.ai is transcripting everything, and so all of that happens and moves very quickly. Or in the farming sector, where there is a non-profit known as Digital Green, and they are really using again ChatGPT in Bihar and in UP. Lakhs of farmers are today using it, where they are clicking pictures of their plants and saying, this plant is looking yellow, or this is how climate change has changed the temperature and the soil quality. So what is it that I should really go out and plant today? Or even giving them live information on the closest mandi and the prices of different crops, so that they can take that decision on, should I go to a mandi which is 15 kilometers east, or can I just go like maybe 5 kilometers south and be able to get a better price? So just taking those decisions live is, I think, where a lot of our models are being used to really create customized solutions. And I think also, as human beings, we interact through conversation, we interact through audio, visual, and a lot of that. But we've always had the way we've interacted with technology all this while has been through a keyboard. That's been the UI that we've been using to really interact. And I think AI has completely changed that. And just ChatGPT 4o, our latest model, has also changed that, where now you can talk to the model, just like how I'm talking to you, and be able to get the answers. And I think that's very powerful in a country like India, where often you have illiterate people, and they have an equal role to play in contributing towards the economy, and they are somehow getting left behind because of that. But now I think with AI, you can break those barriers of language, you can break barriers of literacy, you can also break barriers of specifically even technology access, and so it's democratizing the way people can unlock economic value in their lives because of the way the technology is really moving. And to your point on DPI, I think DPI is really the rails that has allowed for a lot of this technological advancement to happen. And I think we're yet to see how specifically OpenAI tools can play an important role, but I think we continue to engage with the authorities to see. But we are already obviously having many of the fintech players use AI where you have a digital footprint. So now how can you use that information to unlock credit or to unlock many other tools that are available in the fintech ecosystem which earlier weren't available, right? So we're already seeing a use of AI ML, but I think we still have a long way to go, because finance is an extremely highly regulated space. So what is it that we can do there? And after all, it's people's money, so which is very, very critical. So I think we're yet to see how that's going to transform and what role can OpenAI play in the DPI ecosystem. But I think it's been a big unlock in terms of how the Indian ecosystem has evolved. And I think one last example, just to my point on how AI is being used as a leveler, is even when it comes to accessibility, where we have a very interesting custom GPT called Be My Eyes. And so people who are challenged physically now have the ability to again contribute and integrate themselves into society by using AI, which is AI can now be your eyes or AI can be your ears and actually communicate with you, and your physical challenges are not in any way a disability, but you can really just integrate and make sure that you're also contributing like anyone else is.
Before I let you go, one final question, and it relates to your personal life and something which I'm sure has helped you grow both professionally and personally is, you're also an athlete. You've played golf at several national and international tournaments. How has sports enabled your growth, both personally and professionally? If you could share that with us and our viewers.
I feel competitive sport really shapes character. And for me, it's contributed significantly on how how I am, what my values in life are. It taught me early on to be very independent, also to really manage myself effectively. I think we learn a lot as we grow up about, what job to take and how to manage other things, but really managing yourself is, I think, a key skill that I learned when I was playing competitive golf. But that's more at the tactical level. I think at a more character building level, I feel, golf is a sport which you play against yourself. And so you're really trying to better your score from what you were yesterday. And that's a big value for me in life, where how can I be a better version of myself every single day? And what can I do to improve from what I was yesterday? And I think the second piece really was, when you play any sport competitively, I'm sure all of you have always heard this, where, a Federer winning or a Tiger Woods winning will tell you that the sport is really played in these 6 inches, which is, regulating your mind. And so early on, it brought me alive to the fact that I need to regulate my mind. And so it led me to meditating very seriously. And so I do heartfulness meditation, and I continue to build on my practice even after now I don't play golf competitively, but it serves me even in my corporate world and my personal life a lot. And so really, when you're in that moment and you're on that pressure part and you have that chatter in your mind saying you're not going to make it and you have a lot of fear coming in, it's really taught me to manage my emotions very well. And I think that's what really helps me today to really thrive in chaos and also thrive under pressure. And so, as you know, in the corporate world or in the roles that I have taken, often there's a lot of crisis, and you need to have the ability to detach yourself from that and really think objectively and feel what is it that you need to do in that moment. So meditation has really been a big power move for me from what I learned really from golf. And I think the last thing I would say is, just being in that present moment. Often, my coach would tell me, all you really need to do in this moment is play this golf shot well. And I think often we let our minds run all around. We often live our lives more often than not in the future, what's going to happen if I do this? And that leads to a lot of anxiety and other mental challenges that I think we're all facing. And I'm a victim to it as well, more often than not. But I'm able to then very quickly bring my mind back and say, the only thing I can control and the only thing I can do is do well in this present moment, and then therefore recalibrate and see what is it that I can do today to make my tomorrow better.
Another thing that perhaps a lot of our viewers would like me to ask you is, at significantly a young age, you've achieved quite a lot, and all of us are extremely proud of you. As I said earlier in my opening remarks as well, that it's been extremely significant to see somebody rise up the rank and represent the young India. So would that your message be also to our young viewers, that work hard and no shortcuts?
I don't have all the answers. I'm also on this journey of discovery for myself, but I can certainly share what has helped me. And I feel like, in this Instagram, social media kind of world, we're always looking for a lot of shortcuts. So I can tell you there are no 3 tips to become thin. There are no 3 tips to become successful in 3 months. And, those are all things you watch and you learn something from it. But I think in the long run, what will really serve you is the boring stuff, which is just waking up every day in the morning, going to the gym, eating right. That's what's going to get you healthy. Or for work, waking up, getting into a routine, studying, getting to your job and working hard. I know it sounds really boring, but often these are the things that I feel have really helped me in the long run. And look, there's no running away from what is difficult. I see like a lot of people want to move away from struggles, and growth is where the struggles are. And so it's a question of choosing what your tough is, but you have to really lean in. And often when I have made those difficult choices, I have thought back feeling like it's a good choice I made. In that moment, of course, I felt awful and I felt miserable, but it helped me in the long run. And so I think, as young people are going through a lot of their challenges in life, and I know that we're all getting hit from every direction, we should think about really, what am I to learn from this moment? What is this struggle trying to teach me? And then also, if I was to think back about this moment, how is it that I would want to think about how I did? Did I do well? Could I have done something differently? So really weighing out all those options when you're going through that struggle, as opposed to getting very attached and playing that victim card, which we often tend to go to. I think the second thing is, just being really kind. Be kind to yourself, be kind to people around you, and just be really empathetic. And I think just as intelligence is evolving and AI models are evolving, we will have much more time, because they will make you more productive, they will make you more efficient. And so what are we going to do with that time? I would urge young people to start thinking of, as this new world emerges, for them it's going to be much, much sooner, and they're going to be able to adapt and do a lot better than we are. But what do they then want to do with that time? Use this time to be present. I think we often don't define success for ourselves. I was talking to somebody just, very, very recently, where her aim in life was to get into an IIT. And that's incredible, right? It's great to have that objective, but that cannot be the vision for your life. That's just an objective and a small path that is going to get you to that. So, really thinking about what that vision for my life is, and how can I uniquely contribute to this world? Because all of us have this beautiful innate quality that we can contribute. So what is that unique contribution that I'm going to really make to this world? And so just thinking about some of these things, I think will really help, has certainly helped me, and I'm hoping will help people who are listening to this. But I think just to say, I think young people today are extremely sharp, extremely capable. I think once you're able to give them a vision and really guide them well, they can create wonders.
Okay, it's been great speaking to you about, and getting to know you, your work responsibilities at OpenAI, also the fact that there are numerous initiatives that OpenAI is working to cater to the diverse needs of a country like India. Thank you so much, Pragya, for joining us on Sansad TV and having this comprehensive conversation with us on all those aspects. So that's it from us, viewers, on this special telecast. Thank you very much for your time.
To watch more programs of Sansad TV, subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to like and share them.